illegal business do. One is people go out and sell that information.
Oh, yeah.
And there's like millions. Not just 20 people.
Right.
There are millions of people that are getting that information, paying for it.
They're farming or fishing or whatever they call it
I don't know
all the
what
time.
they do, but
I know Walgreens tried to give me I had this Walgreens thing. It was from them, but through another company. And they opened it up and there's a bunch of boxes and you get to gift free. Well, two of them were empty. One of them had a $1,000 gift card in it. And I'm thinking, right, they're going to give me $1,000. So I started reading the fine print, and that's what they want. All this information on you before I just told you.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to give anybody Are we, okay, is that, no, we're not quite ready.
I was right.
3:01, yes we are. Okay, you guys. Okay, I will call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Director Sewell.
Yeah.
Director Grasha. President Wright.
Here.
Director Martin.
Here.
Vice President Duncan.
Here.
Thank you. We have quorum.
Thank you. Okay, number 4. We have employee recognition. We don't have any milestones, but we sure have a lot of employees here that have an anniversary. So, is anybody out there today? No, probably not till Tuesday, right? Anybody comes?
yeah, we have a 16-year-old.
We have a 16-year, Chris.
16-year.
Yeah. The rest of them are just little ones, little 3 years.
Short timers.
Short. There you go. That's what I was trying
Just
to say.
as
Short
important.
timers.
This one.
Okay. Anybody? I have. No, that one's for number 5. Oh, number 5. Yes. Anybody like to have to speak at the public input? Please limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Thank you.
I know you don't. We all know who you are. Would you please state your name for the record?
Hey, always for the camera, right? Name's Russell Betts. I'm resident and customer of Mission Springs Water District. Welcome. Good to see you guys. It's obviously no secret that there's been a personal beef between one former director and a sitting director. And however justified or unjustified that beef is, it's been carried out at this podium numerous times. And I think at our council meetings, and normally it's customary that this podium is for business before the board, not for people's personal squabbles. And I know in Desert Hot Springs at a time past in the city council, it got pretty raucous with that kind of stuff. But I'm just encouraging this board to say when somebody steps up to this podium, make sure it's district business and not some personal past political squabble or even a present political squabble. It's not the place for it. This is where you guys are supposed to deal with district business, take in concerns of residents, and so that would be my comment on that. Another thing is, I understand you are now recording the meetings, which I think is wonderful. I think I came here maybe 6 or 8 months ago and encouraged you to do that, and that was pretty quick. I wish I could get that quick action out of our city staff sometimes, but anyhow, so that's a good move. I think it'll help calm things down and let the people in the public that can't make it here at least see the meetings. I'd still encourage you to set a start time of 6 p.m. like the grand jury recommended that you do. I forget what year it was, 2012, 2013, in a grand jury report that said you should have a start time of 6 p.m. Great that a lot of people in this working community can come down here and interact with the district. So that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. And you have Vice President now, Duncan, to thank you for having he worked on that as president to get that.
Yeah. Well, I heard lots of people taking credit for it. Everybody takes credit for a good idea, right?
Randy was the leader.
Could I interject something here? If you would stick around, council, not on the podium, but at your chief, I'd like the council to weigh in on that later on during the meeting. If you bring it up during council comments about what can be said at the podium.
I'll watch on the video at home later.
You can do that too.
Yeah.
Look at there.
Okay, next item on the agenda. Oh, anybody else like to speak at public comment? Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Come forward, please state your name.
Thank you. I will indeed.
My name is Philip Betancourt, along with my partner, Mrs. Peggy Van Dorp. We own the remaining 21 acres at Highway 62 at Dillon Road. We have finally completed in December our entitlement activities with Riverside County, which include a general plan amendment, a zone change, site development permits, water quality management plans, and we are ready to take the next step so far as our relationship with Mission Springs Water District, which thus far has been led by AdCan Engineering and with the United Pentecostal Church of Desert Hot Springs. They're in here first because they did not have to go through the entitlement process that we had to, because churches are not mandated to do that. So they've taken the lead so far as water facilities planning is concerned, but we're all in the same boat, if you will, and we wish them well, and we look forward to continuing to be a part of the process.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
Indeed.
Okay, we'll go. Anybody else like to speak at public comment? I don't think there's any other public out there except for Ron. Okay, thank you. Number 6, on Tuesday, we will have a public hearing for number 2 of the process in transitioning to a by-division election system. So that would be our second public hearing on that one. We'll do that on Tuesday. Number 7, Professional Government Affairs Service for Brownstein, Hyatt, Farber, Schrick. Recommended to approve the scope of work and authorize the general manager to enter an agreement with them, I'm not going to say it again, on an as-needed basis, month-to-month basis. So, general manager.
Thank you, President Wright. Historically, we've not had any representation, as a matter of fact, or involvement in the political process in Sacramento, as you know. But we learned our lesson the hard way. We had, and I can't speak to it in detail because it is a legal issue right now, and it did teach us a lesson that we do need a strong presence there. So for the first time in history, you all know, and I'm going to repeat a lot of things, but I want to do that for the record. The state is now going to regulate groundwater through the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act. And the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act is working, I think, or is progressing too quickly for the most part, and we need to be able to keep pace with that development of that act. And in order to do that, this will impact us greatly. It's going to cost us. It's going to cost this valley. It's going to cost everybody millions. We can no longer afford not to be connected to our state legislature. And to do this, we need a firm that is well connected and capable of representing us effectively. So we went through a process where we looked at a number of different firms. We need to get this. We needed to get this quickly, and they need to be effective. So this firm is what we picked. They've done a great job. They also will be only on a monthly basis, basically, so we can terminate their services at almost any time if we want to. We can reconsider how we accomplish this in the future, but for now, we're recommending that we enter into this contract with Brownstein and Farber, Hyatt and Schrick.
Okay.
Any other questions? You all know as much about it as anyone, so. Any
One of you
other?
guys questions?
I don't think there's. All right.
No, I know it's a necessary evil.
Okay. So John, when did you want to, or do you want to?
I
forgot about
That's
that.
right.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was going to do it at the beginning of the meeting.
You wanna-
Yeah, I'd be happy to do it now if you'd like.
Sure,
Or can
okay,
do
I
it-
just
or
thought
I can
about
do
it, sorry.
I can do it,
At
why
the
don't we
end.
just do it at the end during
With your
my
comments?
report? Yeah.
Okay,
All right.
sorry. Okay, so we'll go on now to number 8, award and contract for the repair of the administration building roof. Yay!
Okay, as Danny's coming up to discuss with us, or I don't know if the sound might be, I'm not sure. Okay, whatever. you know, but I want to be sure that we're clear today that this project that we're looking at is only for the roof repair. There, as you know, there is considerably more work to be done inside the meeting. It's not relevant to that right now. We have to do some of this work, and we'll be back to you with those quotes later on. So, Danny, I'm going to let you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam President, members of the board. I am happy to bring to you a request to authorize the general manager to award a contract for the repair of the roof. As Arden said, it's just strictly the roof section. In the past, we've spoken about an engineer's estimate that included the full Monty, which was interior, exterior, removal of AC units and cranes and things that need to be do that, a long-term project. This project actually, a little history, if you recall back in October, November, we were talking about this project, what was the next steps. The board asked staff to go ahead and bid this, go out there and also get some interior proposal quotes for the interior work, also look at appraisal numbers so that we can make some determinations on them. And we have had some issues. We had holiday schedules, we had other vacation schedules, which took a little time. We also had the first attempt of the bid process. One person out of 4 people that actually were submitted an actual. 4 people were reached out to. I apologize. 6 people were reached out to. And before I get that screwed up, before it's first 6 or not, the first time we sent it out, we actually had only 1 bid received, and it wasn't even received on the same repair process that was in the specifications and plans. Then and just so you know, we reached out to 4 people. When we spoke with the other people that didn't submit bids, they basically said that the project was just too small. We regrouped, looked at some other specialized roofing companies that are available through our bidding process, client bids. They, for the most part, several had attended the job walk. What came out of that was only 2 proposals. When asked why others didn't propose on it, they're just too busy. So we're lucky to get those 2. There's a memo that's part of this staff report. It's put together by Bassam Alzamar, and it provides the history of where we are and some background of what we've done. So there's more details in that. Some of the things that we're taking out of it is R&R Roofing, which is the contract that we're recommending we award contract to, was in fact the low bidder at $72,840. There are some additive items that we wanted to make sure that if added, we can cover it without having to delay the process. So that's why staff is asking for 25% contingency. You don't typically see that, but a smaller contract amount with some expected replacement of the drain systems if needed. We didn't want it to come back to the board, and so that's why we're asking for 25%. Bassam did get a hold of me before I came up and made me aware that there is a mistake that I made. The contract has not to exceed $105,000. That's not consistent with the staff report. The budget that we're asking the board to approve also in this process is an augment the capital budget is $105,000. So the second number is create a capital budget of $105,000, which allows us to actually move forward with this capital project. Apologize for my mistakes. I'll have that corrected for Monday. But that contract should actually state not to exceed $91,050.
You have till Tuesday.
I'll do it Tuesday. Thank you very much, Madam President. So that's just some of those items. Getting back to this memo. So let me go back to the first time. The first time that we said the repair method was actually a polyurethane foam, and that was to the tune of $98,000. The second time we bid this out, we actually, like as I mentioned, we had a low bid of $72,840 per the plans and specifications provided by the district. The second bid in that process, also the same contractor from the polyurethane, was $130,000. So staff qualified the proposal or the bid. They are a licensed contractor. They're a responsive bid. They have done public works projects in several areas. They know the process for prevailing wage, so this is checked out. There's additional job lot that Bassam did with this contractor. I had some other questions. So we feel good about the award process in this. We did also receive some numbers for the interior. The interior there were some high numbers initially, but when we got the numbers officially, it was $58,699,000 to fix the entire interior. And we're not recommending that at this time, as Arden alluded to in the beginning of this presentation, or this discussion. That, if you add $11,600 to remodel the actual rest of the restroom outside of my office, that is something that we would recommend moving forward with when we do come to the board for something like this. If you add that total of $70,000, so not sure what that's going to be like as far as requests, but we're still evaluating that and looking at what the best options are. There's a lot of things that we're going to be discussing hopefully in March. Staff is working together to put a presentation and piggyback on the employee handbook, hopefully at the workshop in March. That's the plan. Many of you may see what's going on over here. We had a flood, not because of rain, but a piping issue. So there's a lot of those things that I plan to bring back to the board, a comprehensive report along with Brian and Matt. Basam's working on several other items, for example, finalizing the appraisal process. We've got some preliminary things that I would like to go ahead and potentially talk about those in closed session, which we have that right to do. So we'll bring that back to the board in March. All in all, again, we're asking that the board consider approving the contract for $91,050 for R&R, roofing and waterproofing, as well as augment the budget, creating a new project for $105,000.
Question. So the difference, the 13,000, 14,000 basically, 13,950 difference is that there are other items considered in the capital?
Yes, one's a contract cost and one's a total project cost, and you have to administer the project, you have to do construction management, there's other things that go along with it. So the delta, or the difference between the 9150 to 105 it's a short 4-week project, so it doesn't require a lot. There's contract administration. We're not anticipating any progress payments, but all the typical disciplines that go along with the project, that's what that difference covers.
Is that basically the 13,950 is the contract administration, basically?
If that's the number, Arden, I haven't calculated out, but yes, sir.
Yeah.
It's more than contract administration,
But
but it's more than contract administration, as I mentioned. There's other elements.
Additions.
And you're gonna have something for us that, you're gonna redo some of this from Tuesday, is that what you were saying?
Well, what I was saying, Madam President, is if you haven't caught it, the song made me aware of it. I made a mistake on the actual contract, which is an attachment to this staff report.
Oh, the contract.
Yeah, the contract itself is not to exceed $105,000. It's not consistent with the opening portion of the recommendation that staff is asking for.
So, but the contract's right?
Contract is right, it's just the actual amount should state not to exceed $91,050. So the actual request to augment the budget and create a project, capital project, is 105 total. That 9150 would be part of that number, and that was the difference that the general manager was referring to.
Got it, okay. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. It's actually here on Exhibit B. I haven't had a chance to read it, but quickly, the 72.8, is that repair the roof or completely wipe out the existing roof and replace it? Repair, patchwork, or replace front
So
to back?
it is. I wanted to make sure I heard your question clearly.
Yeah.
It's the latter. It's to repair. There's plans and specifications provided, and that's completely stripped the roof of its current roofing material down to the plywood. The plywood, in some cases, I believe, excuse me,
If there's any plywood replacement is included, or is that needed?
So, thank you, sir. If there's any damaged or weak plywood found under the roofing material, it'll be replaced as needed. The adder or the delta that we look for, any project we ask for a contingency that we can address any minor change of roof. But because there's also a possibility that we have to replace the drains, the collection area where it penetrates the roof all the way to where it comes down, so that because there's concern that they may be leaking within the attic area. We wanted to make sure that we had it. We may not to, it's as needed, but we wanted to make sure that we had that coverage. But this is a complete repair, replacement,
Okay.
whatever you want to say. I just want to be careful that we're not taking it down to the to the rafters, we're taking it down to the plywood.
What
And on
the-
the outer areas, we're taking the actual tile, and we're replacing that as well.
Okay, that's fine. I just want to make sure we're not patchwork, you know, where we think it's leaking, because that's,
No,
Like you
sir.
did before.
Yeah.
We were successful, although it
I think it's beyond that point now.
been,
Okay.
yeah, it meant it's in.
Yeah. As long as it's being replaced, in my mind, I'm calling it replaced from the lumber up.
Then I'll go with that,
Russ,
replace.
you have a comment?
No, thank you.
Oh, one more question, I forgot. Are they gonna do anything to make the pitch a little bit on this bid?
That's the question that's been asked, good question. The idea to put an actual pitched roof would require improvements to the walls to actually put a pitched roof. So what the SOM has done with engineering is like lath to create some sort of more pronounced slope,
Just a little tiny.
so that it makes its way better to the drain areas. But it's not going to be a traditional pitched roof.
Right, no, yeah, I didn't think it was that, but at least it won't be a traditional flat roof. For the most, it's got a little more.
For the most
of a-
part, you're correct.
Yeah, okay, got it, okay, thanks, that's a
You're
good
welcome.
idea. Okay, number 9, well 27 and 31 dry wells, award of contract.
Yeah, Danny's here, I'll let him kind of start in, but basically, I also just want to present this, or begin by stating that the basic premise for this is that by doing this capital investment, we will offset, the cost of, basically maintenance and operations, so. But anyway, go on, Danny, I'll explain that, we'll get into the details.
Good afternoon again. This project was approved, not this current fiscal year, but last fiscal year as a capital project. We went through some design brainstorming as what we wanted to ultimately see. And this is consistent with the change in specification, well specifications that we did back when we did well 37, late 2010, 2011. So what we traditionally pump to waste is before a well starts pumping into our waste, our system it goes into an open pond. And with well 37, our standards changed to where we're putting that into a dry well. So we're trying to keep the water within a series of dry wells before it actually surfaces. We did that with well 20, 29, well 24, 22. Because we did some additional improvements while we were building well 37, but it started from well 37's master well design. So we're carrying that same thought over to wells 37 and 27 and 31. They're on the same parcel. There are 1070 pressure zone wells, and they both have 2 wells pumping into one small basin. They could have actually expanded that basin, because what's happening is it's surcharging with a lot of water, creating a lot of growth, and it's a lot of maintenance, as already mentioned. So one of the other things is we just want to make this site consistent, reduce our maintenance, put a series of dry wells for well 31 by themselves, a series of them for 27. They all will then, if they ever overflow, and it's a long-term maintenance fence, something over 24 hours, they still have that the pond. But for the most part, the ponds will rarely see water. So that's what the purpose of this is to reduce long-term O&M costs that we've been dealing with at that site.
And you don't get much evaporation in a dry well.
Very little, because they're cylindrical. They are roughly 36 feet deep, and so there's very little.
Versus an open pond.
Mm-hmm. So we're asking that the board take consideration in awarding contract construction for the well 2731 dry wells project to WECA Incorporated, and the amount of $239,891, with the contingency that the number comes to $263,810.
Questions?
No.
Anything? Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Are you number 10? No. A resolution 2020-03, 2020-04 water and sewer standby assessment.
This is a process that I think you've seen before on a number of different occasions. Every year since I've been here.
Well, this is just setting it.
Well, this just sets the process in place. The public hearing will occur, what, Matt, in June or July? June?
Oh, okay.
And, you know, we're not talking about a considerable amount of money here, but it's a process we go through every year.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, number 11, California Special Districts Association Board of Directors call for nominees for the Southern Network. Is this the same thing we had last month?
No.
What did we have? Wasn't there another place on the California Special Districts Association Board of Directors last month? I don't know. Anyway, okay. No, I guess that was nominations, I think it was, for a committee. Okay, so,
Well, I got CSDA 101 from Dory. So,
what's that?
well,
What is CSDA
essentially,
101?
you'll see in there, Dory, very nicely put a map in there of all of the basic, what do they call them, network areas, or, and each one of those networks has an A, B, and C seat. And part of the first one, if I understand it right, is that we will recommend somebody who might want to be considered for nomination.
Seat B is a recommendation for appointment.
Yes.
Gentleman who previously had that seat lost his seat with his home district, therefore disqualified him from sitting on CSDA. So it's an appointment for the remainder of the term, beginning April 1st, ending in 2022.
So that isn't actually an election, it's just going to be, you're going to recommend somebody to the board so they can consider that person
And
to.
these are optional, correct?
Correct.
Both of them are
Both of
optional,
them.
11 and 12.
Yeah, so the only difference then with the next item, seat C, would be an election for the 2021 through 23 three-year term. And the incumbent for that seat is running for re-election, Arlene Schaefer.
Okay, so if anybody has anybody they would like to throw out there for us to nominate,
And it's open to,
know on Tuesday.
yeah, open to board members and senior staff or executive staff.
And if this is the CSDA seat that I'm thinking of, Kristen Boomer wants to throw her hat in the ring for this. I think she got the backing of the DWA board at their meeting Tuesday.
For the appointment or the election, did you know?
I didn't realize there were two.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and in fact, if we don't have anybody nominated, we just wait for the election and then just vote, correct? Okay, so if we don't have anybody nominated, we'll just vote when the election.
Yeah, you don't need to take any action on either one of these.
So there's 11 and 12. Right. Okay, so now we'll go to 13. Mission Springs Water District West Valley Water Reclamation Facility.
I'm going to let Danny come up and give you the progress report. We've had some pretty good movement here lately.
Good afternoon again. What item is this, 13?
13.
And I spoke with the general manager about this earlier, kind of taking the cue from Victoria. I'm going to make sure, I provide this in the general manager's report, and I'm almost like to extract it from that report and put it in this section so that you have something visual to see. So I'm gonna take a lesson from her, and in future meetings you'll see that. What I would like to
Never too old to learn, right?
correct. I don't want to. Well, I don't. For some people. So we've talked about this project being at 90% plan review for a long time. That's a very, very huge point in this project. Most people say 60% is. You heard me say that before, because at 60%. It's a big deal to have major changes from that point to your 90%. So it's a big cost and potential delay in the design process. So we were successful getting through that. At the 90%, it goes to 100% rather quickly. So we have been talking about this month after month about a 90% review, and I'm happy to say that staff they're meeting Monday. They're consolidating on these items, and we're finally going to get our 90% comments back. But there's a lot of things that weren't really considered, that maybe not conveyed to the board in past reports. At the 60% where you expect to see a version of the specifications, it was unavailable.
We had about 50% of the sheets that we should have been looking at that weren't available. So at 90%, we did a lot of 60% review at that period for many of the sheets, and over 700 pages of specifications. So there's quite a bit, electrical specifications, so it involved electrical engineers. So I am happy to say over the course of the last 3 months, that 90% has finally come to an end, and we'll be consolidating everybody's comments and getting those back to the design engineer.
You mentioned a Monday meeting. Is it actually Monday, or, I mean, is that company working, or are you meeting with them Monday?
I keep saying Monday.
Tuesday?
Meaning it's.
Tuesday.
The Tuesday, Monday.
You know what? My staff's dedicated. We might be here Monday, but doubtful. Hopefully I can make it home tonight after that comment. So that's one of the bigger takeaways from today is I'm happy to say that we are reaching that point where we can finally return those comments back. The consolidated meeting is basically getting everybody on one page, putting everything, and having some other questions on some technical questions. So the other big part is you heard us talk about the permit process with the regional board. And we've had some disappointing information, but I'm here to talk about the fact that we met with the board this week. General Manager Wallum set a meeting with Paula Rasmussen and her staff. It was a successful meeting in my eyes as far as what we took away. We did get some preliminary information as to what we would see in their letter. That letter was promised to us this Friday, and happily to say that they provided to us yesterday. So we've got that information ahead of time, and they had 6 questions. Some of them are not really significant, but our report of waste discharge, which is what we applied for, our operating permit. One of those items, for example, was the fee. I guess they want a fee for this permit. That's kind of crazy, but go figure. Everybody wants this paid, so that's the small part. But the application fee for the proposed facility is, because we're classified as what they go as a 2B. We can go into details at another meeting, but essentially just south of $19,000 is what our cost is. $18,767 for the permit process. Very, very easy to do. We'll have staff working on that. There was some clarification as far as like the belt filter press. There was some solids handling details that were not necessarily omitted, but maybe should be cleared, so they asked us for some backup information. One of the bigger takeaways that Arden and I talked about is the proposed target effluent quality, the criteria that they look for. And they said acceptable for the BOD, the TSS, that the total nitrogen, the pH, all those items were within limits that they had zero issues with. One of the things that they looked at was reducing our TDS from a 400 milligram above the domestic source to 300. And it's a reduction, although, as Arden and I shared today, that's compared to what other agencies have been forced to do. How they refer to it, they would kill, or maybe not so much say that, but they would give their left arm in order to have some items like that. So
Brian and I were in that meeting. They in some cases they actually put a numerical limitation, and it's pretty restrictive on. They went through it, didn't they, Brian, and listed.
Yeah,
that different plants have different requirements, and I didn't.
So 500 was the one that they're trying to enforce on CBWD's latest plan.
And that's not necessarily above. That's just a flat number, and it's not for the discussion today, but that's another organization. However, this wasn't a surprise. This is something that we were expecting to see. We just wanted to see something as a formal letter. The other takeaway is we anticipated this. They looked at a need for groundwater monitoring, and typically, like we are permitted over at the Horton plant, one upgrading it, two downgrading it because of our discharge ponds. So we were anticipating that, and they confirmed that that's one of the requirements of our infiltration basin. So we're going to be working towards that. We've got a lot of information that'll speed that up. As I was sharing with staff today at lunch, we just finished up 2 monitoring well projects, so the cost necessarily won't be too significant when we add this to this project. But those are items, again, in my eyes, fairly small than what could have happened and could have seen as far as change in process. So this will not have any significant delay moving forward with the design, and we were happy to send an email to the design engineer yesterday that move forward with final design. We will be able to move forward with final design once they receive our comments. we were anticipating some sort of delay with regional board notification. So that's all great news. That is the highlights, I would say, that's happening. Also on parallel paths that are happening, we have a series of properties down there that are about 92 acres. There's a solar site on one, well 33 is on the other, and then the makeup, the difference would be where our ultimate 20 MGD regional plant down the road. So part of that process to clean some things up, there's a bunch of other utility easements between all the separate parcels. So we're doing vacation documents, so we're doing a tentative parcel map, which will create well 33 by itself. It'll create the solar site as one parcel, and then the balance of all the parcels will be officially the regional site or the West Valley Water Reclamation Facility site. So that's also running in parallel. We're working with the City of Desert Hot Springs to possibly look at some easement or road easement options to be able to take the gravity line, sewer line down Little Morongo that will reach or not the headworks, but the pump station, the actual influent pump station of the plant. We're working with some property challenges, and we've engaged the city to see if possibly partnering with a road easement rather than utility easement may be the more expeditious route to go. So those are items that we're working on at the same time. West Valley conveyance line is part of that project. That is it's on hold while we work through some of those items, but it's okay because the project of the plant itself is so much longer that when we come in with the sewer line, conveyance line, they'll complete at the same time. So with that concludes my report.
Danny, the plant itself, isn't it over the Garnett Basin?
It is over the Garnett sub area. It's on the fringe. It's on the fringe. It's the property itself where you want to consider the plant or the solar is on that line of what we would refer to as the Mission Creek, but the majority of the plant itself is in the Garnett sub area, correct?
And what about the basins? Would they also be
the infiltration basins?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. They're the most southerly portion of
That water quality is less than the Mission Creek Basin. I just was wondering if the water quality of the Garnett Basin would have anything to do with that 300 TDS that you were talking about. Would that help it? Would it dilute it? Would it make it worse?
You know, he does know the answer to that.
It won't help.
That's
the situation, yeah. And those are some items that I believe are going to come out in other.
Because we're discharging into a lesser quality basin than if we were over the.
It's a lower. It's recognized as a sub area, yeah. And it is a lower.
Well, I just that might come into play. I don't know.
We've talked about that, but at this point in time, no.
Not yet.
So it's the actual receiving waters. So they all come right at this point in time. They come from the Mission Creek subbasin. And I will, at the next meeting, I apologize because this was something that came in shortly. I'll make sure that we share that letter, or what was received by the regional board. So, again,
just got it.
I have a question once Danny's done.
I'm completed.
This is not a technical question. For the 2 years I was president, I jokingly and lovingly referred to this as the alphabet plant, or the alphabet, plant. Are we going to stick with this name? Are we? I mean, I feel sorry for whoever has to answer the phone. Are we using this name? Is it just a working title?
It's not that long of a name when you look at other reclamation, but we can take out the word reclamation facility, I suppose.
Or even the MSWD part in just West Valley. I don't know.
Well,
It's just
MSWD is West Valley Wastewater Treatment.
Why not take out West Valley? Mission Springs
Well,
Water Reclamation Facility.
yeah.
That's above my pay grade.
So that's another time at another meeting, I suppose.
No, that's what I said. When he's done, it's not a
That's
technical
not
question.
agendized.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay, number 14, I-10 sewer collection system financing district.
Nothing to report. We haven't met with anyone. We have nothing, no action. And actually, what we will wait to do is to see, now that we have this design done and we get things moving along and we're very comfortable with the progress there, then we'll probably go back out. Brian is going to work with probably John Soulier and has talked to him a little bit. And Victoria, and we'll all three of us get together, but we really haven't had the, and part of the reason, excuse me, for sort of jumping in here, but one thing that I think we need to recognize is that there is a point where it's going to be more of an opportunity to go down to that area and start campaigning to get this thing moved forward. And we'll get the information together and get back to you.
Okay.
It may not even be at the next meeting, but we'll keep moving forward at it, okay?
Everybody? No?
We'll move forward with it, yes.
Okay, the next thing is the consent agenda, which has our minutes on it of January 13th, January 16th, and January 21st, and the registrar's demands. Any comments, questions? Anybody like to pull any for?
President Wright, if I may, I failed to include Victoria Lord in the roll call section of both of the study session and the regular meeting, so I'll be making that correction before they get approved.
You're in. Okay. So okay, well, remind me if I have to say the corrections on Tuesday, please. Okay, finance report.
Good afternoon, Madam President and members of the board. Briefly, the 6 months ended December 31st of the district fiscal year are complete as far as financial reporting goes. That is in your packet. The landscape format summary sheet is what I'll be looking at that looks like this.
No, ours is in yellow.
Yeah.
So just a couple of quick highlights. The trends we've talked about thus far this year continue. The actual figures for both revenue and expense are tracking in a favorable variance to budget. That total number for revenue is $1.37 million ahead of budget, and I'm sorry, for operations. And for non-operating, that number is $181,000 ahead of budget. And if you're following along, I'm in the third column from the left in the upper left corner. The 1.551 million number there, which is the net income variance from budget to actual, so we're tracking $1.5 million ahead of budget. That number in October was 1.8, and that number in November was 1.7. So as I've commented in past financial reports, that is mostly a seasonal factor, and as we get into the winter months, that will start to reverse, which is what we're seeing. So everything is tracking as expected. In the middle section there, cash flow. Cash in the beginning of the fiscal year, July 1, was just below $35 million. During these 6 months, there's been a negative cash flow of almost $3.7 million, and that results in a total cash balance at the end of that period of $31.3 million. A side note to that is, as you all are aware, we collect our sewer charges on the property taxes, and we only get 2 payments a year from the county for that cash. In late January, we received almost $4 million related to those sewer charges, which will obviously offset this negative $3.7 million cash flow for those 6 months. So we're going to be close to flush on cash flow for the same period. And that completes my report, and I'll answer any questions I can.
Nope.
How much interest are we making on our savings? I know
just
it's not
below-
variable. Is it here?
Yeah,
Just a little bit.
Oh, there it is. Oh, I
It's-
see investment return. Okay.
Yeah, it's not very impressive, but it's better than it has been in the past few years.
Considerably better.
I don't know, that looks pretty good, pretty low. Jeez.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Public affairs report.
Hi, good afternoon, President Wright, members of the board. Okay, Okay, if we can turn to item 17, just going to briefly go through some of the past month's events. This past Saturday, we had the Food Now Charity Golf Classic, and we did sponsor. We had staff in attendance, individuals that golfed as well. Also, this past Saturday, we had the Colorado River Basin Section Corps Awards and Board installation, which I believe many of us were at. As you'll see, there's staff listed. Also, Lee Boyer was installed on the Corps Board of Directors, so that happened last Saturday. This past Monday as well, we had the United Way of the Desert Round for Impact Golf Tournament, and we, as you see there, another set of individuals participated in that tournament.
The golf?
Oh, look, there's Arden again. Get a golf picture.
Really?
Don't play much golf.
So Teresa golfs? I did know
Yes.
Teresa golfs. So that's pretty cool.
Good.
Yeah, good.
And as you know, the United Way of the Desert, they facilitate the Help to Others water assistance program that we do. So a few upcoming events. Next Friday, we have the 75th anniversary of the end of World War II, the Palm Springs Air Museum Gala, followed by the Big Heart Awards, March 5th. Our MSWD Employee of the Year is Chris Jacobson, and he'll be honored at that awards dinner. So if you haven't yet RSVP'd, although I believe many of us have, but please let us, myself or Dory, know so we can make sure that we're there in support of Chris, as well as the Desert Hot Springs Rotary Club, of course.
Just a real quick question on this Air Museum Gala.
Yes.
This Lieutenant Colonel that's being recognized,
Yes.
is this the same gentleman that President Trump mentioned in the State of the Union?
I'm not sure. I
I
got
don't
the same
think
question
The
myself.
name doesn't look familiar.
No, I don't think it was the name.
But same rank, 100 years old, the same.
Right. Everything was. I saw the same report actually.
Yeah.
I just hadn't had a chance to verify.
Okay, thank you.
And I believe he passed away. So I think it's a memorial tribute to him on his, what would have been his.
Bald friend passed away.
Oh, memorial tribute. Ah.
He was there last year in the wheelchair.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
yeah, okay, yeah, that's what I thought.
Okay.
He was there last year. So it's the memorial tribute, okay. Okay.
I should learn to read.
Followed by the Senior Inspiration Awards, Friday, March 13th. We have 10 seats available for that. I think we are out of 9 out of 10 seats. I believe I've got pretty much everyone's RSVP. Same thing, Desert Hot Springs honoree is Courtney Moe. So if you'd like to attend, please go ahead and let me know. And as we touched upon last month, there will be another tour of the wastewater treatment plant by Cabot Yerxa Elementary on March 4th, and that's a group of about 15 student council students. Quickly touching on other attachments that you'll see in the report, you have Alpha Media's social media management report for the month of January. So they do our Facebook, so you can see the different posts and how much traction that we've gotten there, and impressions, likes, things of that nature. Following that report, you have CV Water Counts, their monthly outreach report, as well as a Valley Voice article that was published this past Monday. The Valley has hit a significant milestone, having 50 billion gallons saved since 2015. And so we each rotate writing a Valley Voice article, and luckily it fell to Mission Springs Water District to author that specific article. So I thought that was a nice highlight for the district.
You did a very good job. It was a very good article. I'm sorry I didn't mention it today at the ENE meeting. I didn't even think about it.
I myself
But I knew you had all the figures. Anyway, right there.
Also, you'll see the MSWD digital advertising. So this is our Facebook ad, Google ads. So you'll see the 3 different messages that we targeted were continuing the water waste reporting, highlighting our MSWD values. This month we focused on integrity. And then we also do a targeted like campaign to increase views and likes towards our page. So that one was a We're Proud to Serve a Community Award-winning water. Speaking of award-winning water, it's not in the report, but the 30th annual Berkeley Springs International Tasting Contest is taking place February 20th to 23rd. Actually want to give a quick shout out to the production team, as well as Carol and Robert. They were pulling the water today, and we're shipping it out this weekend. So That contest or the tasting takes place on the 22nd, so we should know that following Monday how we fare. Continuing down with the Greater Coachella Valley Chamber of Commerce, so we've seen a little bit of a resurgence and just a small resurgence here in Desert Hot Springs. They have met with their local GCV-DHS chamber, and their next board meeting will be Tuesday, April 7th, and I'll be attending that just to kind of have my ear in the meeting, see what we could do to better help our business community. You'll see a couple notable events. There's a lunch bunch event tomorrow at Playoffs at 11:30. So that's just it's a networking lunch. The only cost to you is your lunch. Same thing. There'll be one May 8th. Although the board may not be available if you're going to Aqua, but there's another lunch bunch at Mission Lakes Country Club. So it's great to see that they're starting to have events out here, and lunch bunches are held throughout all of the Greater Coachella Valley Chamber cities, and so they just encourage you to go visit different businesses. So it's nice to see them starting to come out here in the Desert Hot Springs area. Same thing, State of the Cities, not until May 11th, and I will let you know when I will open up the RSVPs for that. Okay, you'll also see the water bottle donations there. As discussed last month, that's a new addition to the report, just so you can see the different organizations that we are supporting. And then I do have copies of the draft. These are very rough mock-ups of the legislative brochure. And so before I hand them out, I just want to do a quick shout out to the finance team. They were very integral in securing our numbers for this, as well as shout out to Brian and Arden for casting a second look and being key team members throughout this process. So I welcome any and all feedback on this. As mentioned, it's rough, so the edges might not match up 100%.
If we get approval or confirmation or okie dokie or whatever you're looking for back Tuesday, how long will it take to get these printed?
Not very.
Dare to?
Yeah.
Days.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
And with that completes my report. I'm open to any questions if you have any.
Yeah, I was very pleased to see that the Greater Coachella Valley Chamber of Commerce is having events here in the city. There was another one that I saw, and these two that are listed here, I can't go, I have a conflict on both of them. But the other one was meet at Starbucks and do a
Yeah,
walk.
so that's a business walk, and that's things that they do in the different communities they represent as well. It's almost like canvassing, so they go out to different businesses. It could be promoting the chamber, encouraging those businesses to join the chamber, but also letting them know the services that the chamber does provide and how best that they can utilize the services to increase their business. And so we've been invited if anybody wants to go out and walk with them, kind of knock on doors.
I have another conflict that day, all three of these, so I was really bummed. So hopefully, could these be monthly things, or will there be anything monthly here, or is this just a?
I think it rotates, quite frankly, because lunch bunches, as mentioned, they go, so the Greater Coachella Valley Chamber cities are Desert Hot Springs, Indian Wells, La Quinta, Indio, Coachella, and so they kind of rotate. Same thing with their mixers. There's different things, and I'll make sure to include, there's a couple of regional mixers that are coming up, partnerships with Palm Desert Area Chamber as well as Rancho Mirage Chamber.
Okay, is the city belong to that officially?
Their contract is still pending, but I'm happy to see that things are still progressing because the contract's been pending since last August. So it's good to see that they're not waiting on that in order to move forward.
Yeah,
and reaching out to the
stuff like
community.
this might help too.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Okay.
Monthly reports. Do you have any comments, questions, concerns?
It is kind of fun, to see, we with in the water report and seeing these last couple, 2 or 3 years, where our services are going up considerably, new services.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we are growing again. Our production was down just a little bit from last year. And my wife and I are always comparing this year to last year, and I don't think it's that much I know it's cooler this year, I think. I think it is.
Well, there was a lot more rain so far in February last year than we had this year.
Right.
February 14th.
Right. So,
With the
that's
flood.
kind of interesting.
And I have said this many times throughout the years, but I'll say it this year again, there's 8,207 sewer connections. Before we started our Make the Connection program, or shortly after we started it, maybe after we got that first 400 connected, there was only 2,800 connections back then.
Wow.
So we've come a long way on connections, on sewer connections.
Our flows at the plant are still peaking, you know, around the same, which is kind of interesting. Actually, they've come down a bit. I cannot explain why, but that's an interesting phenomena. And that's all.
Okay, it's stayed pretty steady since,
Yes.
since
yeah.
September, actually, or August, actually, which is very, usually a real discrepancy between the summer and the snowbirds in the winter.
And I thought Laura's report was interesting, you know, especially when she went through the budget and appropriations process.
Is that this, I didn't get a chance to read the
Carp-
report, is that the one that's in here?
Yes.
I'll read it.
That's interesting reading.
Washington is an interesting place.
Yeah.
Okay, any comments on the monthly reports, guys? Pardon, anything else?
No, I
On
do
that,
not.
okay, so upcoming events and directors reports. Anybody want to do it today?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. How about you?
Tuesday.
Been busy?
Yeah, and I do have some comments under director's comments later on.
Okay, thank you.
And we're reporting for the month of January, if I have this new system down pat yet,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Okay. CBWD board meeting, January 14th. Approve authorization, successor memorandum, MOU. They had a real quick meeting. There was just a couple of highlights. They voted on things. Really wasn't much of a meeting. The same with DWA on the 21st. They're also establishing rates and fees and sewer rates and fees. Budget augmentation, December water use reduction. Oh, the GMDA, that was the alternative, if you will, to the groundwater guardian that they're part of. And I asked Joe at lunch the other day why they weren't part of the groundwater guardians. Do you remember what answer we got? It was something about, well, we got this one.
Something like that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Do we even know who they were?
Yes. Yeah. January 28th, CBWD board meeting. They tore down Mesa View in Alamo Drive in Palm Desert, up by the Living Desert. They had to tear down the shrubbery, a barbed wire fence. They did some repairs to some 2 big tanks they have up there. And part of what they had to do was add a safety railing around the top, which is another 3-4 feet tall, was a requirement. And then they were going to put some trees back around it, some shrubs and whatnot. Well, the neighbors have got together, and for the past several board meetings, they've had 5 or 6 people talking that they want these ficus trees, and they want brick walls. They settled on a budget at their last meeting of about I think it's about $175,000, just to screen off a couple of big tanks. And it was pretty heated topic, but they settled on a huge budget to screen that, and it should look nice when they're done. It's something we need to keep in mind when we're working on things. And that's it for January.
Okay, thank you. You weren't around, right? Yeah, I don't, you aren't even on here, are you?
Now you talking about your vacation?
Okay, so, Director Martin will do it on Tuesday. Oh, I do want to say something about the CVCC, Coachella Valley Conservation Commission meeting today, that I went to, that it's about the next one, which is, Mark, what is it? Where is the next meeting? It's on April or March. There's a different, it's April 9th. I can't attend, so Randy will be attending, but they're going to start the meeting at 8 o'clock in the morning. And the CVCC meeting will start at 8 o'clock in the morning. Then they're going to go out on a tour. I think it's like Salton Sea and maybe that fence, the Bighorn Sheep fence, and do a couple of tours. Then they're coming back before noon and doing the E&E meeting back at their offices. So you can either go to the 8 o'clock meeting and then leave if you don't want to go on the tour or can't, and then come back at noon and go to the noon meeting, Randy.
So which one was at 8 a.m.?
This is the Conservation Commission.
CVCC is at 8 a.m. and E&E at 12 noon.
I'll check my
And
schedule.
there's a tour in between, and you can just mix and match or do whatever you need to do.
I'll see what I can do.
Okay, so that'd be between you and Randy and Dory. I just wanted to bring that up. I won't give you I won't remember next month what the meetings were about, but okay. That part I need to tell you now. Okay, next one is correspondence. Do you have any? Yes. Food now. Dear Arden, when are we going to make time for lunch?
Yes, more golf.
I did call him today. No, actually, I don't play much golf with Dana, but he's the one we put together the tournament.
He helped you do that?
Well, yeah, this year he didn't really include me that much.
However, it was packed. It was full. And so we are gonna go out to lunch next week, and we'll decide how we want to go from here on.
You know how much it made?
No, I did not. But as soon as I have lunch with him, maybe he'll give me some idea at that time. But it was very successful, and they do appreciate it. It really is nice to hear from the group, especially the volunteers. They thank the district and us for doing this, because it really is a substantial help to them with regard to funding during the year. They do this, and they have the chili cook-off. And do you know if they have anything else? Food Now Family Services?
They're going to be a benefactor of another golf tournament, them and the Bob Hope USO. Yeah, USO. That tournament's happening in like 2 weeks, but it's not put on by, they don't have any other self-produced fundraising events.
Okay.
Okay, and we have a thank you to April from a lady, I guess, Marta, and giving kudos to John and Don.
Yeah.
Joe and Don, excuse me, Joe and Don. So that's very nice. Nice, oh, they got good notes, good letters here. Thank you. I'll have to read them, I haven't read them all yet. Okay, district council's comments.
Yes. So I thought the comments by Councilmember Betts were timely because I had talked to the board president about going over the rules of procedure that the board had adopted. And I know that there has been some tension and decorum issues at some of the past board meetings. We were really hoping Mr. Grasha would be here today. I had put in some effort into making sure that this was a positive meeting and a good meeting, and that we could perhaps put some of those tensions or decorum issues in the past. I've been representing public agencies in one capacity or another for about 27 years, and my experience is that what the public wants from the legislative body of a public agency is that the board members are, that they're prepared when they come to the meeting, that they're professional at the meeting when conducting the people's business, and that they're respectful with each other. And so I think the rules of procedure that you all adopted are helpful in accomplishing those goals. And so I just wanted to go over, and I would suggest perhaps at future meetings, maybe for a while, until everybody gets accustomed to them, that we go over the rules of procedure that you all adopted, because it is a thick document. And so I've gone through and I've highlighted portions of that document that I think may be helpful in addressing the issue that Councilmember Betts brought up. So first, all noticed meetings are conducted using Robert's Rules of Order as a procedural guideline. It doesn't mean that you're bound by it, but it's a guideline that you can utilize. And then I think one of the most helpful provisions is in section 10.01 of the rules on page 12, and it provides that the president of the board presides at all meetings and decides all points of order and procedure during meetings. The president is responsible for the maintenance of order and decorum at all board meetings. No person should be allowed to speak who has not first been recognized by the president. All questions and remarks should be addressed to the president as the presiding officer. No member of the board should speak more than once upon any one subject until every other member of the board wishing to speak on the subject shall have been given the opportunity to speak. No board member shall interfere with the orderly progress of a board meeting. In order to ensure the orderly progress of board meetings, the board president regulates the amount of time to be dedicated to a particular agenda item. A roll call vote on any item may be requested by a director at the discretion of the president, and roll call votes are encouraged in connection with resolutions, ordinances, and actions after a public hearing. And I met briefly with the board president today before we started the meeting and went over kind of an outline of how you might address agenda items at the meetings. And I think most of this you already do, but maybe a little modification in terms of the approach that might be helpful in maintaining decorum. The first would be when you have an agenda item that the chair announces or reads the agenda item. The second step would be that the chair invites a staff report on the item, and I think generally that's the way you do things here. And then third, the chair should ask if there are any technical or clarifying questions for the person that's giving the report. And if somebody has a question, they should ask to be recognized by the president before they ask the question, so that we don't have multiple people talking or people jumping in and peppering the staff member with questions in the middle of their report. And the idea is that the board president is always controlling the progress of the meeting and the procedure of the meeting. And then fourth, you invite public comment. And then fifth, the chair should invite discussion by board members. And the board president and I talked about the idea of perhaps starting at one end of the board and getting comments, or if you don't have comments, going to the next person and just working your way through, and then nobody would interrupt the person that has the floor that's been recognized by the chair when they're speaking. And then six, invite, and this would be at the regular meetings, not the study sessions, and that would be invite a motion and a second, and then take a vote. And I think if you follow that procedure, that may help with. It's not a surefire thing, but my hope is that it would help. In terms of the question that Councilmember Betts asked, or the issue that he raised about members of the public coming here and speaking, wanting to make comments that may not be necessarily in your subject matter jurisdiction, I wanted to address that as well, just briefly. As you know, under the Brown Act, you all are prohibited from taking action on any item that's not on the agenda, and you shouldn't engage in a substantive discussion about an item that's not on the agenda. And we've been really good about policing ourselves and making sure that we don't violate the Brown Act. So you're restricted by the Brown Act in that regard. Members of the public are not. They can come in and they can raise a subject that's not on the agenda, and the Brown Act acknowledges their ability to do that. So they don't have that same restriction. the risk you run, you know, the one concern I have is you don't want to get into content-based regulation of speech. You're a government agency, and so people come in here, you can request that they direct their comments to items that are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board and of the district, but what you can't do under the First Amendment of the United States Constitution is get into regulating the content of what people say when they come here and speak during the public comment period. We do have people that come in and speak about items that aren't within your jurisdiction. For example, people have come in and talked about the Christmas parade. And, you know, we allow that. If somebody comes in and they're critical of you as a board, or critical of one of you, or critical of the district, and you shut them down, or you ask them to stop speaking, now you're regulating the content of their speech. And under Reed versus the Town of Gilbert, which was a relatively recent U.S. Supreme Court decision with a majority opinion written by Justice Thomas, the courts now apply strict scrutiny when the government is regulating the content of free speech. And almost all the time, the effort by the government to regulate the content is going to be struck down. Because under strict scrutiny, you have to show that there's compelling interest by the government agency to regulate the speech, and you have to show that the efforts by the agency or the rule that they're enforcing are narrowly tailored to achieve that compelling public interest. So that's just something that you need to be careful with. Also, so that's the First Amendment. And we're bound by the First Amendment. You all raised your hand. You swore to uphold the First Amendment when you took office, and we're all bound by that. In addition to First Amendment rights, under the Brown Act, Section 54954.3a, it provides that the legislative body of a local agency shall not prohibit public criticism of the policies, procedures, programs, or services of the agency, or of the acts or omissions of the legislative body. So, you know, my recommendation would be, given that you've been generally very liberal in allowing people to come in and talk about things that may not even be within your subject matter jurisdiction, that we not make an effort to stop people from speaking when they're being critical of us. In fact, it's most important to protect the right to speak when they are being critical of government.
With public officials, that's right.
Okay, I have a comment.
And this is not an agendized item,
okay,
so we can't get into a lengthy discussion, but I wanted to give you a thorough answer to
Can
it.
Russ give you a question?
Yeah, just a quick question, because I think that was, the councilman was influenced by the admonition that is given before every city council meeting, which said that all public comments must be devoid of personal attacks. And that has been a dispute that I've had with discussing this with them, because I concur with you that you've got 3 minutes pretty much to say whatever it is they want. That's not the city's position at all. It's actually contrary to that. So I'm just letting you know that's why I believe influences his comment on that. So
They're not alone. If the city takes that position that you're not allowed to get up in a public forum and attack or be critical of individual elected officials, there are public agencies that have rules that say you can't engage in personal attacks. I have concerns, and my opinion is that is risky and could run afoul of the First Amendment, because one of our fundamental rights under the First Amendment is to be critical of the government. So,
What about profanity? We don't have to put up with that, do we?
I think that's debatable.
We haven't had
I don't think
we
there's-
haven't had any, I know.
No. It's kind of interesting. I was having this very conversation with a lawyer in my office today. We were doing some work for another client, and define profanity.
Cuss words.
Define obscenity. You can't really come up with a black law definition of it.
So if somebody comes up and
but
starts
when you
effing
see
and
it.
doing this, we just have to let them go?
excuse me, I got another comment. Is it okay? Can I be recognized?
Sorry, yes, go ahead. I'm sorry, I thought you were done.
No, I thought, yeah, I was done. I'm going by the new rules that I have to get here
Thank you.
recognized.
You're
So,
making it easier for us.
yeah. One thing you didn't cover, and I assume that that's going to be in the handbook, and I don't recall seeing it, is the actual procedure for removing a person or a board member. What are the steps necessary? And that's kind of spelled out in Robert's Rules of Order, and I want to know if that is also incorporated in our handbook, and I don't recall seeing it. So
Yeah, there is a provision on censure, and I didn't go into that because I hope
That's okay.
I hope we never have to use it.
Yeah.
And my hope is, and I think my goal, and I think all of you share the goal, that we have professionally run,
Right.
mutually respectful meetings, and that we get past the tension, and that we don't have to go there.
Okay, thank you.
One
Yes.
quick question, I don't know if this is appropriate time, but when we're talking about the board handbook that we adopted last month, Director Grasha did recuse himself, saying pending litigation. Has anything been brought towards us about?
No.
Okay.
No. And I'm not sure why he recused himself, but the board did adopt it, so. And I think there are provisions in there that I went over today that should be helpful if we police ourselves, stick by the rules, all the procedure. It's not gonna be 100% perfect, but I think it'll be helpful for everybody, all board members. So.
And is this something you're willing to go over again on Tuesday if?
You know, for one of my other clients, I read them at every meeting.
He asked if it was, and I said, fine, at every meeting till we get used to it.
It's just a good reminder.
He said they do it in Needles?
Yeah, we go over it. The mayor has me read them at the beginning of every meeting, and it's helpful. It's just a good reminder.
Okay.
So, thanks for my report.
Okay, thank you.
Give him something to do.
General Manager's report, and I do have a nice written one here too.
Well, yeah, and mine's short. Couple things were already discussed. We're going to the Urban Water Institute next week, which we all look forward to. Randy's on the board for that. And then we're going to DC the following week, and so we'll be getting this stuff ready. That's why I would appreciate getting your comments over the weekend. And I want to say thank you to Victoria and Brian. They really jumped in there.
Yeah.
And Matt.
Usually we're
Matt
reading
got
them on
it
the
too.
plane.
Really quick.
Yeah, that's scary.
It was nice. And the last thing I got is that Matt gave me a little bit of an update from the 2,800 meters and 22% for the AMI project. We are now up to 3,200 meters, 3,218, and that gives us a 25% progress on that.
I ran into
on the project.
I saw him, one of the contractors had Ferguson written on the side of his van, but then he's got one of our, what do you call it, the magnetic MSWD, so I went over and talked to him for a few minutes.
That was part of the agreement. It's in the contract, so they know
Yeah, that was good, yeah.
we're officials. Okay, that is it. That
Okay.
concludes my report.
Director's comments. Ivan, how was the trip? I saw you did this month. No, go ahead.
No, it was a lot of fun. I did want to just say that so far, from what I've looked over, I really like this little pamphlet, and I like that everything's really easy to digest, and
Yeah,
nothing
using
quite more
that
than
format for a few
you know,
years.
a quick 5-minute read. So, good job.
And I think it's one of the favorite ones of the legislatures and the Army Corps of Art. They hear from all the ones they get. They really like ours the best.
Yes, two things. First, with respect to this meeting, and only this meeting, did anybody hear from Director Grasha on his attendance?
No.
I did.
What's that?
I did.
Okay, what is it?
He wasn't gonna be here.
Did he say why?
Privately, he did.
Okay, because I'm concerned, because it has to be an excused absence, otherwise the record should reflect that it's not an excused absence. So if that probably should have been related to staff and whether,
He did not
I actually texted him and asked him if he was gonna be here for the meeting.
Okay.
Because I was hoping that he would be here for the discussion.
Okay.
And he said he wasn't going to be here, but nothing in the communication requesting an excused absence, so.
So I would suggest that it be listed as an unexcused absence. Let the record reflect that. Second thing is, with respect to the counselors, Councilman Bett's comments on the 6 p.m. meetings. He was talking about that being a grand jury, and that gives it an aura of being some formalized, serious. It was just a kind of an informal advisory kind of a thing, and it was just basically a suggestion that it take place at 6 p.m. so that more people could attend. In response to that, we have had a number of meetings that took place at night, and there was no appreciable difference in the number of people that came out for those meetings. That's number one. And number two, when you look around the room here, how many people would be on overtime if we had them on 6 o'clock with no public in attendance? To me, that would be a waste of resources, a waste of our ratepayers' money. So I'm, absent some significant argument to the contrary, I'm for supporting the way things are in respect to our meetings. That's all I have.
I think to add to that, when we do have an issue that we think the public is interested in, we do have meetings at night, and we will continue to have meetings.
Rate increases.
And the other districts basically do it early in the morning, the other two. And they've tried the evening meetings also, and in most cases, they haven't seen any appreciable difference in the attendance. So, I mean, and you are correct. That was just, in fact, I believe that that is a pretty typical comment that they make to every district when the grand jury comes in and takes a look at their process.
That's all I have.
So the grand jury.
Okay. A couple things. Yeah, back to the public comments category. Whether I think they're right or wrong, I don't want to be the one to try to censure the public. So I think they also, you're spot on, they have the right to say whatever they want. Whether I feel they're wasting our time or not, that's their time.
Can I just real quickly add to that? The one, you asked the question about profanity and whatnot, because profanity can be a way of communicating a strong emotion or opinion, and certainly used in the public forum to communicate ideas or thoughts. But one thing that people can't do, which is illegal, is interfere with the progress of a meeting. So if you had somebody that came in and they wouldn't sit down and they were speaking at the podium and ranting and raving and cussing, and they were disrupting the progress of the meeting, then now they've moved into violating the law, and you have a right as a board to conduct your meeting and conduct the business of the people that reside in the district.
Right.
So anyway, I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, thank you.
And then, like Ivan said earlier, I would really appreciate it if you would give everything that you gave up to where we started talking about the Councilman Betts and the public meetings and all that, how the meeting is run, that kind of good stuff. And then lastly, when we adopted the board manual last month, the very last page was a signature page saying that we were going to adhere to the policies. I haven't seen the book passed out to us, nor a request for us to sign that page and bring it back.
We will. Yes.
I'm looking at you, but I know you're not the admin.
Yeah, but we can do that. But you did pass it, so it is your rules of procedure now.
Right. And that's all the comments I have.
Okay, I've got a couple comments. So today at the E&E meeting, Victoria came, and I had given her the goals for the E&E committee, and there's a water conservation, water quality goal, and one of the goals was kind of I think it was kind of outdated. It was about 30%, to get 30% conservation by 2020, the whole valley, and anyway. So Victoria was there, and she talked to Katie, and so Katie's going to get with Victoria and CV water counts to work on some verbiage for that particular goal. So I just thought I would bring that up real quick. I would forget next month and it'd already be over with, and I didn't. The DC brochure, that was on my thing, but you guys had already handed that out, so I got that. And another thing I was thinking about when I was at that CBAG meeting, we're going to have to do a lot of groundwater monitoring in this valley. That we're just really short on monitoring, and it's very, very expensive. And when you look at CBAG, CBAG is the whole valley basically, except for Blythe, but that could be taken care of. But I was wondering if possibly working on monitoring wells and getting grants for those monitoring wells in the valley here, maybe working through CBAG and get all the cities and CBAG, and that would also be the tribes and the county to collaborate on grants for monitoring groundwater wells. I don't know if that would work, but that might be some way to help do it. Just popped in my head as I was at CBAG.
My response to that is actually I'm going to come back to what I mentioned a little earlier. The Sustainable Groundwater Management Act requires us, of course, to do the groundwater sustainability plans, alternative plans, the bridge documents. As we get into this process more and more, we are realizing that they are going to require monitoring wells. And they're going to have to correspond to what they need to determine what the basic hydrologic levels are. So I think you're going to see more and more monitoring wells put in the valley. And I don't know, Brian, if you've got anything to add to that, but we are going to see more of those, and I think we should all work together. The information from those wells should be something that's accessible to all of us so we can understand how the valley as a whole, or the groundwater basin as a whole, is doing. Anything else?
I just thought it might be a good avenue to get collaboration for grants, because there's going to be a lot of money out there probably for monitoring wells. There has to be, because most agencies can't afford it. It's just it's really high, cost. So anyway, it was a thought. Maybe we might think about that in the future. Okay, I don't have anything else. We are not having a closed session today, correct? So with that, the meeting adjourned.